Hi everyone, I'm Sophie from Boltech, and today I wanted to share with you our submission for the 0 to 1 Productivity Hackathon with Retool. The tool that we built for this hackathon is a personalized accessibility settings module, which we're going to use in our internal applications. We came up with this idea because one of the criteria for the hackathon is making someone's life better with software. And one day we noticed that one of our developers was struggling with her eyesight while looking at one of the table components in Retool. So we decided that this would be a great way to improve people's experience with the app by making it more accessible to everyone. There isn't really a way to set these things easily currently in Retool, except when originally developing the app and hard coding the sizing in, which is why we designed this module to allow you to customize things like font size and adjust the line height and character spacing to make sure it's all readable. So if we have a look at this in the app, we would head to accessibility settings and enable those. This is the default, and then we would enable these accessibility settings. And so with this module, we can move these sliders up and down and change the font size to make it easier to read. And then we can adjust the line height to be a little bit larger, and even the character spacing to be easier to read for anyone according to their needs. And then we took it one step further, and we thought that another thing that we could add to this app is the ability to change the font. So depending on people's needs, different fonts can be more readable. So we have the normal Arial, we have Tahoma, Century Gothic, and Comic Sans, which might be more readable for certain people. We also added this feature, which is the contrast mode. And when you toggle that on, it changes the background of the containers to be a sort of off-white cream color, which makes it easier for some people to read because the contrast is better than black on white. So if we have a closer look at how this works, we can go into the Edit app. And what is really special about this app is that this isn't actually defined on the app level. These settings are defined on the individual user level. So these settings can be customized depending on the individual that is logged into the app, based off the email that they use to log into Retool. So the way that this works is by running a separate database. In this case, we're using Google Sheets. And when the user submits these accessibility settings, they are put into this Google Sheet, which you can see here. So when I just submitted my settings, they set the contrast to false, the font size to 12, the character spacing, the line height, and the font type. So this database will hold the accessibility settings for all of the users of this app. And every single time that that individual logs into Retool, the app will run a query to this database. We'll pull in the user settings that they have saved and apply the CSS to their app. So they no longer need to change these every single time they log in. It's actually saved in a separate database for them to access every time they log in. So if we take a closer look at how this works, you can see that we have 5 relatively simple queries here. We've got our 3 Google Sheets queries. So get user settings, which is just pulling in the data from that spreadsheet. We have post user settings, which is appending data to the spreadsheet. So if we have a new user submitting settings for the first time, that's going to add a row for their data and their settings to be saved in there. And then we also have edit user settings. If that user has already saved their settings before, then that button is just going to update their settings in the spreadsheet. So we also have this SQL query, which is filtering those users according to their email using this current user .email reference in Retool. So it's having a look at what email that user uses to log in. It's referring to the Google Sheet spreadsheet, and it's only pulling in their settings and applying them. We also have the post or update, which is looking into the spreadsheet and seeing whether that user already exists or not, and deciding whether or not to use the post or the edit user settings when the user submits their changes in the module. And this is all connected using CSS. So as in Retool, we have The CSS is hidden in these text boxes here. And you can see that we have our CSS here, which is defined, and the CSS you can see is defined here by the slider values and the different toggles in those settings. So that's going to decide exactly how that CSS looks. We also have this at the top, toggle to.value is true, and that's our disable and enable those settings, which means that when those settings are disabled, this ternary here is going to reset everything back to its default. So what's great about this idea is that the same concept can actually be applied in lots of different ways to customize apps by user. So custom user settings can change things such as table layouts, hiding columns, hiding certain components or containers, changing button functions, and showing default tabs, which are all most useful to the user, the individual that is using that app. So each user can really have their own personalized interface within their organization's app, which allows them to be their most productive. We've actually made this accessibility settings modal into a module, which we are happy to share with anyone who'd like to use it, and we'll link it in the description below. And we'll also shortly be releasing a tutorial on how to make this all from scratch, as well as other settings modals, which we will also link as soon as they are ready. We hope this might be useful for somebody, and also hope that you'll all be encouraged to make your apps more accessible using our module and more options in Retool. Thank you.